This is Maureen Kafkis, the Brain BS coach, here to tell you about the episode today. So, in this episode, I'm speaking with Andelin Price about relationships, the one we have with ourselves, the one we have with others, and what it's like to be a part of the collaborative capital coaching community that I recently created for coaches who are putting service ahead of money, who sell with transparency and integrity. I think you're going to really enjoy this episode and getting to know Andelin, and you can learn more about her on the directory on the website and the links in the show notes. So sit back, settle in. Episode 167 of the Brain BS podcast, Talking Relationships with C4 member Andelin Price. Do you want more out of your life but not exactly sure what that might be? Are you longing for something but can't quite put your finger on what it is? That is the universe speaking to you, and it is time to listen up. I'm your host, Maureen Kafkis, the Brain BS coach. I created the Brain BS podcast to help people define what success means to them and show them how to get it. I help you to let go of fear and doubt and prepare your nervous system for success. I show you how to understand your own energy and to trust yourself to make all the decisions. If you are ready to go inward and stop looking outside yourself for all the answers, this is the podcast for you. Now let's get started. Hello and welcome back to the Brain BS podcast. I'm here today with the relationship coach Andelin Price, who also happens to be a member of the collaborative capital coaching community, which I call C4 because it is much easier to say that. The name is a mouthful, but I'm sticking with it. We're a community of coaches who put service ahead of money. We're transparent with our pricing and we sell with integrity. So I am so happy to have Andelin here as the first person of the community to be interviewed, and I am going to let her introduce herself to you.
Well, hi, thanks so much for having me. I really love these conversations. So, I got married to my husband in 2001, and together we have 6 kids. All of them are boys. So it is a total adventure around here. And I thought I was happy, and I thought I was happy, and then I realized I'm not as happy as I think I am, like as I wanted to be. And so I started looking around for resources out there. I started reading books and I started listening to podcasts. And then I found coaching and I was like, that's the thing. Actually, it took me a few years to come around to being like, I could do that. But then once I did, it has been like my work, my life's work ever since. And that was in about 2001 when I jumped into coaching. And actually, the funny thing is, I signed up for coach training before I had ever actually been coached. So I'm just like sort of in with both feet. I also teach music lessons in addition to my coaching and my kids. And once in a while, I'm actually performing with an orchestra this weekend. So I'm
Oh,
really,
wow. I didn't know that. The harp.
yeah.
Yeah, wow. That's really cool. I want you to come to the community sometime and play the harp. Would you
Oh,
do that?
totally. Yeah, I would do that.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. I would love that.
Yeah, I totally would.
Okay, so
So,
it's kind of funny that you're talking about getting certified as a coach before you got any coaching because I did that too.
oh, that's funny.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
like,
had no idea what I was getting into, but when you know, right? When you get the calling and it's there, you're just like, there's no denying it.
yeah, totally. And that's how it was for me. I was like, should I do this? I had conversations with my husband because, it was a big deal. A lot of things changed in my marriage at that point. Like things were already changing, but like that point where I was like no longer quote unquote just a stay-at-home mom, when I was taking on this other thing that I knew would take a lot of time, I knew that he had to be totally on board. And he has been. He has been nothing but supportive this entire time, which has been such a big help for me in being able to really like do what I need to do to develop my gifts and to learn all the things that I need to learn, and even sometimes practice the same tools that I'm teaching my clients with myself, for myself, and in my own marriage. And it has been totally life changing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. You have to embody what you're teaching other people. You can't just like tell them to do it and then not do it yourself.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the same impact. Okay, so we're
Yeah.
going to do this podcast interview a little different than we have all the other ones because we're going to let people get a little taste of C4, the community, the course that goes with it, and your take on relationships. And then they're going to find out a little later on how they can work with you
Hmm.
if they're inspired to do so. So let's first talk about, because oftentimes when people are talking about relationships, they don't realize that they have a relationship with themselves. So I want you to first speak to what are your thoughts on that relationship that you have with yourself, and how is it now compared to how it was before you did this work?
Okay. So um, I think that let me think how to answer this question. My relationship with myself has really completely transformed. The thing about the relationship with yourself is that you are the only person you can't get away from. If you get into a marriage or a friendship, or even like your parents or your siblings, and those relationships kind of go south, you can cut off those relationships. You can not talk to your parents. You can divorce your spouse, but you can't divorce yourself. You can't get away from yourself. And so that is the most important relationship ever because it's the one that you're stuck with, you know?
Yeah,
And so I used to not have a really strong relationship with myself. And it's not that I didn't like myself necessarily, I was critical of myself. Um, but I didn't believe in myself. And that was probably the biggest thing for me is that I just didn't believe in myself that I really could do something, that I really was capable. I was just really disempowered. And and it comes from a lot of different places. But once I realized that like I really am a powerful person. And at first I was afraid because like being powerful is also scary at the same time, especially if you're used to like living small. And I had to face that fear, and I still am facing that fear. But even to just step into like, who am I actually? Who am I really? Has been a huge it's been a lot of discovery for me because I thought I was who my parents told me I was, and who my religious leaders told me I was, and who my husband told me I was. And some of those were true. Some of those were really true to who I am, but some of it was not really true. And so I had to break free from all of that conditioning and all of those belief systems that were handed to me and really say, but who am I really? And I don't think I don't know if I'll ever stop discovering who I really am. I think this is something that will continue for my whole life.
for
But
sure.
I am really loving what I am discovering.
Yeah, and as we both know, that can change on a daily basis, right? Like
Mhm.
that's how brains work. So you can be like feeling it and you're just like, "Oh my God, I got it all figured out. Life is good. I love myself." And then you wake up one day and you're just like, "What is going on? Why am I stressed? Why am I anxious?" And it's all normal. It's all part of the process. So this work, as amazing as it is never going to take uncomfortable emotions out of our lives. And part of the relationship, part of dealing with relationships is dealing with the discomfort that can come with them. And it's also sitting in your own discomfort and feeling those feelings without making them a problem, and with, finding the gift in them and learning how to actually feel them and release them. And then when we do that, our relationship with ourselves is just that when you begin to really trust yourself to make all the decisions and you really believe in yourself, like that's where real love comes in, because you would not be critical of your kids or other people the way we can be of ourselves when we just can't get something right, or you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? It's a little bit different when we talk to ourselves.
Right. I feel like I am way more kind to myself than I used to be.
Yeah.
Understanding that, yeah, I have bad days. I have days when I complain to people and when my child self comes out. And I used to be really hard on myself for that and be like, I shouldn't be that way. I know better than that. And I shouldn't have those kind of days anymore. And now I'm like, wait, no, that's just me being a person and having a human experience and having emotions and having hormones, even. And that's how it's supposed to be. It's not, there's something wrong with me and I just need to fix myself. It's like, no, that is perfect me. That is who I'm supposed to be.
Yep, flaws and all. And that is where people get a little bit confused with this work, that is supposed to make you so that you do everything perfect and you have everything all figured out. That's not really the point. The point is to love yourself when you don't have it all figured out, and to be kind to yourself and hold space for yourself, even though you don't have it all figured out. But okay, so let's talk a little bit then about how this impacted your relationship with your husband and kids doing this work.
So I used to try to control my husband and my kids so that I could feel some sort of control over something, or so that I could, like, it was just like, if you would just do your homework, then I wouldn't have to worry about it. Or if you would just do the things that I want you to do, then I could be happy. And obviously that doesn't work, because even when everybody is doing exactly what you want them to do, if you're not happy, you're not going to be happy, you know? Um, and also it's about it. What a huge shift that I've noticed is allowing my kids to be themselves and just letting them make choices that maybe I wouldn't necessarily make, and understanding that they have their intuition. And sometimes they're following their intuition. And even though I don't understand it and I don't see it the same way they do, that I can let that go and let them make their decisions. And if it turns out to be a mistake, that's okay. I still love them. I'm still here to support them. And sometimes it turns out even better. Like them doing it their way was actually better than my way in the first place. And just being able to kind of like let go and separate a little bit and let them be themselves, rather than like try to tell them who they should be and how they should act all the time. And so it gives us so much freedom to just be ourselves.
Well, yeah, because you're never going to do everything that you tell them to do anyway. And then your
Right.
whole life, like to feel good, would be at the mercy of others and whether they're going
Mhm.
to do what you tell them to do or not.
Yeah. And my value does not rest in who they are and what they do. My value is secure in who I am and what I do and my values and how I live true to myself. And then once you're able to really get to that place, it doesn't matter so much what other people around you do. You're not like, well, you have to do that because it makes me look bad, or that kind of thing. That's what a lot of parents fall into, is like, well, I have to make my kids be good so that I don't look bad. But
And they do that like for life. Like they do that
Mhm,
with the profession they choose. They do that with their grandchildren, the schools they go to. And it's
mhm,
like Eckhart Tolle talks about that in his book. He's like, no, they're your kids as long as you have to be responsible for them. But then after that, they're just another individual on their own journey and their own intuition, and they decide what they need. And that age really doesn't have anything to do with wisdom when it comes
mhm.
to what's best for an individual. So the ego of the parent is pretty big in terms of what they think they're in control of.
Yeah, it really can be. And I also find that when I'm able to let go and not take what they do personally, I enjoy being with them so much more. Like my kids make me laugh every day. They are hilarious. And they say things and they're funny and they have new ideas and they bring me new ideas, that stuff that they found, and they're like, listen to this thing that I video that I watched or something. And I'm even learning from them, and I'm not judging them. And I'm just able to enjoy being with them and to fully love them for who they are. And that is the most amazing part of being a parent, even of teenagers, because I've got a bunch of teenagers around here, and we just have fun. And we do have some conflict once in a while, but it's not like it was with my older two that are a little bit older. And before I kind of found this work and was able to really understand, like, it's your life, and all of that.
And your hormones, right? Like teenagers are raging with hormones, so there's no
Um,
controlling them anyway. So, and it sounds like your husband's been supportive all this time, but how would you say it's improved your relationship with him?
well, I'm able to hold on to myself. And what that means is when we have an argument or when we have a discussion about something, a lot of times I used to just side with him. I used to just be like, well, he's right. He must be right because he knows more than I do. And so I'll just kind of side with him. Or we'd get into an argument and we'd either just like not talk for days, or I would just give in to what he wanted, even if it didn't feel really right to me. But now we can discuss things that are even heated. Like sometimes we get into things that we both feel really, really passionate about, but we don't get angry at each other. We don't shout, like we never really have like shouted insults at each other,
Yeah.
but we have gotten very upset with each other. But it was more like, you have to agree with me. Otherwise, I don't know if I can handle that. But now he can disagree with me all day long, and it's okay. And he gets to have his opinions, and I get to have mine. And we can work through, like, we had a couple weeks ago, I said something, and I'll be honest, it was kind of a mean thing to say. And I didn't think that it was mean when I said it because I didn't understand how he was feeling about the situation. But later, so I just said something and it was kind of awkward. And I was like, okay, we can't talk about this now. And I went into our room and I was folding clothes or something. And he came in a few minutes later and was like, do you know how that felt when you said that to me? And instead of like getting all activated and upset and offended, I was like, oh, yeah. And now that I have a little more context for what you were thinking and going through, I totally can see how I should not have said that. Um, I was totally out of line, but I still hold on to that what I said was true for me. That I wasn't like, okay, I'm sorry, I backed out. It wasn't like I totally backed down, but I still held on to my values of the thing that I was trying to say. And he was able to express his upset, and I apologized for the part that I did wrong. And then it took 5 minutes and it was fine. And we loved
Yeah.
each other. So it didn't turn into this fight that lasted for 2 days, you know?
Yeah. Well, you have to have a certain level of comfort with personal power to be
Mm-hmm.
able to say what you want to say, to be seen, to be heard, which we talked a little bit about at the beginning. It takes it's probably the biggest gift of the work is when you don't feel irrelevant or invisible anymore, and like your opinion matters just as much as everyone else's. And if you're like really empowered, your opinion matters even more because you have leadership energy then, and you can inspire other people to do that. So that kind of takes me to the next question, which is about community. So I created this community, C4, and you joined it. And what was it that made you want to join C4? And what do you think is the biggest thing you've gotten out of it?
I joined C4 because I really wanted a community of other people who are on the same journey that I'm on and who have similar values, because we all need help. We all have those days. Just a few weeks ago, you'll remember this. I was in the group and I was having a really rough day. And I really felt safe that I could share my rough day with everybody. I didn't have to pretend that everything was fine. And there was some crying, there was some emotions. And one of the other members reached out to me. And a few days later, we met together and she helped me so much to get through the thing that I was struggling with. And that's what we need. What we need is other people who are like, I'm in a really good place right now. I'm happy to help you with this. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to help her so that then maybe I'll get something back from her. She just was truly kind and loving and supportive. And then there will come a time when somebody else is crying. And I'm the one who says, hey, let's talk. And I'm happy to help you through whatever you're going through right now. And this is why community is so important.
Oh, I love that. And that's why the Brain BS community that I'm creating for the non-coach, you could do the same thing. You don't have to be a coach to help people in a community. Anybody who has a big heart, good intentions, and wants to take care of their fellow human has gifts. We all have gifts and skills, and they can always benefit other people. So that's why I think community is so important. So what is the well, so would you say that's one of the biggest things you got out of it is just having a place to go and you can be honest and authentic and not pretend, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a big thing. I was really curious what the course was about.
Oh yeah, talk
Um,
about the course a little bit.
yeah, and so I've done it in little pieces here and there. What I really love about it is that it talks about how you need to take care of yourself first, and um to really, and also the other part is to like really do the work. Like you can do all the learning, you can read 1,000 books, you can sign up for all the courses, and you can listen to all the podcasts, but if you're not implementing what you're doing, then it's not going to do you as much good.
Yeah, and it really isn't. And it's like, so it's hard to really, it takes courage to
Hmm.
implement the work. Like to take it outside of your daily practice where that takes commitment and discipline. But to take it out of there and try to have an impact on other people and to have a ripple effect. It takes courage, it takes a willingness to be uncomfortable. It requires you to trust yourself, the process, the universe, and other
Hmm.
people. And that means trust other people even when they might be a jerk, that that's the best thing for you and that that's why it's happening. Um, that's probably one of my latest lessons that I've learned. Like I know this trust thing. I've heard it a million times, but I just read it a different way the other day. And it's like, no, you have to trust other people, even if they're acting like a jerk to you. And it's like,
Hmm.
oh gosh, I would like try to avoid those people. I would try to control things in a way so that I didn't have to put myself in that situation. But when you fully trust, you can engage anywhere with anyone and not be
Hmm.
impacted by, have the effect be that you have a positive effect on them more than you're going to be taken down to a lower vibration because of their behavior.
Hmm. And what comes to mind about that is another thing that's talked about in the course is checking in with the nervous system. There's so many people out there who are just like, just do it, just do the thing, just push yourself, push through, um, just get it done. And that works for a while until you completely burn out,
Yeah.
until your nervous system goes haywire and you're in anxiety all the time. But when you can keep control of your nervous system and know when it's time to stop, know what when you're safe and when you're not safe, then you can trust yourself and then you can be around those people who are maybe not your favorite people and hold on to yourself and tolerate being around them rather than having to like run away from those people, avoid them just to get away from them. So the more awareness and strength that you have in your nervous system, the more control over you have over it, um, the better you can just be with other people. You don't
Yeah.
have to try to get away from them.
Yeah, and when I talk about like when you take aligned actions and you move forward anyway with courage, it's always with the premise that your nervous system has to support what
Mhm,
you're doing, because otherwise that just shuts everything down and keeps everything from coming to you and anything that you have to offer from going out. So it's so important, the mind body connection. And I ignored my body forever. If my mind had ideas, I had timelines, I was going to do the work, and I do 12, 14-hour days. I was obsessed. And it's like, no, doesn't work that way. It really is about the, well, it's about the mind body relationship. Since we're talking about relationships, there is
mhm.
a relationship between the two. And if
Yeah.
there's not, honestly, if there's not, there's usually a person sitting there with a lot of ailments, a lot of pain, a lot of health issues. When you're not listening to your body at all, that's going to create a lot of problems for you. But it's
Mhm,
also, you have to also manage your mind and be able to, there's certain things you can manage your mind around. There's certain things your body's going to tell you, and then you need to learn the skills of reprogramming your subconscious and unconscious programming so that you could create the life that you want. And I am a little partial because I did the course myself. I don't think it seems like a really difficult course. Is it? Like, what was was it hard for you to go inward with some of the parts where you had to be honest with yourself?
not for me. I like that the pieces are short, that it's not like this whole hour-long video that I have to, like, sit and remember all the things. I
Yeah.
like that the workbook comes with it, so that when you're done watching the video, you can really sit down and have those questions, like, ready for you to answer and fill out. And sometimes that's really helpful because you watch a thing, you're listening to a thing, and then you get pulled away because some kid wants a snack or whatever, and then I have something that I can come back to without necessarily having to go rewatch the video.
Yeah, well, I don't even have 6 kids, and I feel the same way. That's why I made the videos 10 minutes,
Yeah.
or shorter, because I like short videos too.
Mhm.
All right,
Yeah.
well, so this has been great so far. I love this because I love the way you broke down relationships. I love that you talked about how you can't get away from yourself, because I never
Mhm.
really thought about it like that. And I totally agree with that. So why don't you tell the audience now, in case they are interested in working with you or they want to learn more about you, how can they do that?
So, if you want to work with me, I work with couples generally, but basically, it's I tailor it to what the couple needs. So, if what they need is to work with me separately, then we'll do that. And if they need to work more together, then we'll do that. And so we just kind of work it out together based on the needs of where the couple is at right now. I have a podcast called the Marriage Bites Podcast. My husband is my co-host, and he's hilarious. So he makes it so much fun, and I just love doing it. I feel like I should have started this podcast years ago because we have so much fun making it. Um, and so if you want to kind of hear my thoughts and get to know me a little bit more, that's a really good place to find more about me. I'm also on social media once in a while.
Yeah, you could share all the links with us for that. Plus,
Mhm,
Andelin is in the directory on the brain, www.thebrainbs.com. She's in the
mhm,
directory there with the links so that you can get in touch with her and you can see her picture and
mhm.
read her little bio. And okay, so what is there anything else that you want the audience to know about? Oh, I know what else I was going to say. They can also learn more about you in the Brain BS community if they join that, because the coaches
Mhm,
from the C4 community will be going in there to do little workshops and concerts with they play the harp like Andelin does, which I'm totally going to bring her in there. I would
mhm.
love to listen. I love listening to the harp. But what are any final words of wisdom that you might have for the audience that we didn't already talk about?
Um, I think when it comes to relationships, one of the biggest things is to be more honest with yourself. Be really willing to look at yourself and ask, well, how hard would it be to live with me? You know, because it doesn't work to try to control our spouses to help us feel better. What we do have control over is ourself, and that really starts with honesty. How am I really? When I said that thing that I said, I didn't mean to be mean, was there actually a little bit of um meanness in was I actually being a little bit critical and now I'm trying to deflect from that? Or, am I truly being as loving as I could? Am I really showing up in this relationship true to myself and in a way that's collaborative with my spouse? And the more honest you can get about who you are, the more you can change it.
Yeah, I like that. I also think the two books that I always recommend with relationships, Terrence Rill, Us, and
Mhm,
Susan Page's Why Talking Is Not Enough, are both great books to learn about like your unconscious self when you're in a relationship. And then Susan Page is all about how you can change your relationship all by yourself. Your partner
mhm.
doesn't even have to know that you're doing the work and they could just experience the benefit of it.
Absolutely. So yeah, if there is somebody whose spouse doesn't want to work with me, I work with just the one spouse too, if that's what's best.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today. This has been a great conversation.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Okay, audience, I know you learned something valuable here today. I'll see you next episode. Thanks for taking the time to learn how to master your brain BS. I hope you enjoyed listening to the episode as much as I enjoyed creating it for you. If you're inspired, I would really appreciate it if you could take the time to do a 5-star review and tell everyone about the podcast. And if you want to learn more about how you can be a part of something amazing and a community that's trying to give back and change the world in a positive way, you can go to www.thebrainbs.com to find out how.